All right, welcome to the On Your Side podcast. Today we're talking about pets.
I love this subject.
Little fur babies.
I have a couple of them.
What do you have?
I have 2 cats.
Right.
One is brand new to our family.
Oh.
So we have a 2-year-old calico cat.
Okay.
And then at work, my husband met another little baby calico.
Boy. And
he called me and he said, I think we need a second one.
Where was the cat? Walking around in the parking lot?
No. It was at a rescue. And so he was at work. He went and stopped by a rescue for work for something. And he just fell in love. And then, of course, the kids fell in love immediately. And I fell in love. So we have 2 calicos. And now they're best buds.
Yeah. I was going to say, how do they get along? Did it take them a while to kind of like liking each other?
We did like the little, we did the slow introduction where they could smell each other for a week or so before we let them go at it. But my goodness, they're now best buds. Except for the older cat, every so often you can tell she's like, no, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And she'll kind of try to walk away, and the little cat's still batting at her tail.
Yeah, wants to play.
Their names, I have to tell you their names.
Okay.
Oyster.
Oh, wow.
And then Scallop.
Oh,
So we
I
went
see
all
a
seafood.
theme. I see a theme here. Okay, well, they're cats, so they like fish.
They're super cute. I
So-
know you have a little fur babe too.
I do. Well, 2 of them actually, and they're Chihuahuas.
Also super cute. I bet my one cat is bigger than your Chihuahua.
Probably Pepe and Paco.
So cute.
So, yeah, they're very, very cute. And the little one, like you said, your cat, my little one is always wanting to, he's bouncing around like a unchained crazy person. Funny story about you and your cats that nobody knows.
Oh, no.
That is, you have 2 cats, you love your 2 cats, but you're always paranoid that your house is going to smell like cats.
Well, of course I'm paranoid. I want my house to be perfectly clean and amazing. So anytime anybody comes over.
Like your parents, when they come over?
Anytime they come over, I'm like, you don't smell a cat, do you?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, your house is clean and wonderful. It's great. But it is absolutely panic inducing for me that I don't want my house to smell like a cat.
I will tell you, the first time I come over to your house, whenever that might be, I'm going to say, oh gosh, it smells like cats in here.
And I will know that you're joking, but it's going to be in my head.
I'm going to like break out in hives or something.
I'll have you and Todd and your wives over for a dinner party.
I look forward to it.
And you can make sure that the house is all good and clean.
We'll come over with the white glove. and
It'll be a seafood party, right?
Yes. I like
no
that.
Oysters, no scallops, but the rest of the seafood. We'll just have the party.
Have your cats eaten anything like that got them sick, or you discovered that they ate like, where's my, whatever, and then you find out that they may have eaten something?
Not that I know of, but except for we have a couple house plants, and I have noticed a couple little chew marks, which I know is bad.
Yeah.
You don't want animals chewing on plants.
Yeah, and and that's true too, because it's I've read somewhere like if your dogs are eating grass, it means that they're sick. You're supposed to let them. I don't know what's true and what's not true, what's good and what's not good. So today we're talking to Dr. Ricky Walther. He's the Chief Medical Officer for Pawlicy Advisor, and that's PAW Palsy, not Policy Advisor. So I love the play on names there. How you doing today, Dr. Walther?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, and you're joining us from California. How are things over there?
It's nice. Good weather, not too hot. We're finally out of summer, so enjoying the weather, cooling down.
So being a vet, do you have any pets, and what kind are they?
I do. I have 2 mini Australian Shepherds. So Kaya and Kimba, one is half the size of the other, and they're adorable and full of energy.
Can I just tell you, that is my favorite breed. I used to have an Australian Shepherd. It was the smartest, most loyal dog ever.
Shepherds are cool. I grew up with 2 shepherds. One was a Shepherd Husky mix, and one was a Shepherd Akita mix, and they're just, oh my goodness.
Well, we all love, I guess no matter what dog you have,
yeah.
you're going to love it anyway. But I loved my Australian Shepherd. Hey, when it comes to eating, dogs and cats, I guess they're always getting into something. So we'll just start off with what Susan was telling us, that her cat nibbling on plants. Should she be worried about that?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question and a super common kind of toxic potential impact that cats can encounter in the house. And one of the most common is actually lilies. So we always see, especially in springtime when lilies become super popular, we'll see cats come to the vet really, really sick because lilies, if cats ingest even small amounts of the plant, can have kidney failure from them. So it's really bad for their internal organs. Some things that owners can look out for that are, changes in their appetite, vomiting, increased thirst is actually a really interesting one for this, and increased urination, right? So a cat that's peeing inappropriately or things of that nature can all be signs that they potentially ate something. I always recommend that people not keep lilies in their house at all if they have cats, because for whatever reason they do seem kind of tasty. There are other plants that are toxic to cats too. Most cause GI upset, so they'll upset their tummies and their intestines. You'll get some vomiting and diarrhea. Some are more severe than others, though. So a lot of plant, basically a lot of plant stores will actually have a label on there that says whether or not they're pet safe. And the other thing that's great is the ASPCA has resources on their website that'll help to kind of guide on which plants are toxic to cats, dogs, and otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's something people really don't think about. They bring home an adopted cat or whatever, and they don't think about putting away plants. So lilies at the top of the list, you really shouldn't have those in the house at all. What about, ivies are really popular. Ivies, are cats attracted to ivies, and is that a problem?
So it really depends on the plant and the type. There's lots of different types of ivies. There's lots of different types of every plant. So I think it really is what I tell owners is that you don't, rather than ending up in a situation where you could be in an emergency and headed to the hospital, it's always best to search the actual scientific name for the plant you're thinking about bringing home. That's part of the reason why they all have those little, basically the little sticks in there that tell you what they are. Search it and see, and that ASPCA reference is a really good one to make sure that it's not toxic. It'll tell you how dangerous it is, right? It'll say mild GI upset or, potential worsening signs. Anything that lists any other kind of organ damage, definitely would avoid having in the house altogether.
I love that advice. You also had noted that there are a lot of other concerns that are maybe in the house that we don't realize. Batteries, grapes, sugar-free gum, and even onions. Can you walk me through some of these concerns? What in the world is the problem with onions for cats?
Yeah, so onions, a lot of people don't know this, but if depending on the amount that a cat eats, it can cause anemia. So there's compounds in onions that interact with the red blood cells in their body, and it can damage those red blood cells and make it so that they can't transport oxygen in the same way as normal, and so they can get really sick from them. And so what the biggest thing here is, when you're cooking, making sure that either your cat's not in the room or that you're making sure to pick up after yourself. Cats, it depends on the cat. Some absolutely love onions. Others would want nothing to do with them. But if you do have a cat that's curious and likes to come around you when you're cooking, that's definitely one to kind of keep in mind. One of the other ones that I wanted to mention, especially for dogs, is that sugar-free gum and mints that you mentioned. The reason why is it's not just sugar-free gum and mints. There's a compound called xylitol that's an artificial sweetener used in lots of different things. Some toothpaste has it. Even we're seeing some peanut butters will have xylitol in them as a sweetener. If you read the label on the back of anything that you're bringing into your house and you see xylitol, it's X, Y, Z, and then has lots of letters after it. If you see xylitol, definitely make sure that you're not giving it to your pet. I always find that the one we see the most commonly is actually peanut butter, right? People are not typically giving their pets gum or mints, but they do tend to actually give their pets peanut butter. And so that's one of those things, especially for dogs, we want to watch out for. It acts like fake sugar in the body. They secrete a bunch of insulin, which helps to drop that fake sugar, but it doesn't work the same way, and it makes them have very low blood sugar, and they can end up in the hospital.
Peanut butter? Really?
My mind is blown right now.
I know.
And now I'm going through the checklist of what my 2- and 5-year-old dropped on the floor from the dinner table, and I'm panic stricken. And I don't want to take up the whole time on the podcast, but are peas a problem? Is bacon a problem? I know those are two things that my cats have actually eaten in the past week.
You're probably not going to have as many issues with peas, and bacon kind of falls into my category of anything super fatty. You definitely don't want your dog or cat to get a lot of it, because they're not like us. Their stomachs are not meant to deal with super rich foods. So just my general rule of thumb is, if you're thinking about giving your pet a treat or things, make sure to search to make sure it's safe. There's lots of websites that will help you with whether or not things can or cannot be eaten. And anything that you're going to cook for your pet, trying to have very minimal to no seasoning, salt, and fatty additions tends to be really helpful. And back on that peanut butter piece, as much as there are some that have xylitol, did just want to mention lots of peanut butter is totally fine for pets. You just got to read the label.
So, Doc, I love grapes, and I think there's a couple of times down the road where I'm sitting there watching TV and I'll drop a grape, and either Pepe or Paco will go over there and eat the grape. Now you're telling me that's not a good thing. Why?
Yeah, so grapes are very interesting, because there's actually a newer body of research trying to figure out why grapes are toxic to certain dogs, because it's not every dog. You'll hear people say, like, my dog eats grapes. And then other people have said, my dog ate one grape and ended up in the emergency room. And we don't know exactly why certain dogs are prone to having this issue versus others. There's lots of things that are being considered. But because of the fact that rarely it does cause kidney disease in dogs, and it's becoming, I think, more common as more people are home cooking, we are recommending that people just don't give their pets grapes just to be safe, at least until we know for sure what's causing it, and if there's any other things that we can clarify that with.
When I drop something in the kitchen or something, I years ago, I would just, let the dog, I'd tap my foot, let the dog come over and be my automatic vacuum cleaner.
And that was probably the dog's best day of his life.
Oh, I know. I mean, dropping stuff like bacon and stuff like that. You mentioned that earlier, but, and my wife she's like almost an expert on everything that's bad for our dogs. And she'll say, don't feed them this, don't feed them that. What about chocolate? I've been instructed not to give chocolate to the dogs.
Yeah, so chocolate is toxic to dogs. There's a compound in it that does cause pretty significant neurologic dysfunction, as well as other signs. Chocolate is hard for multiple reasons, because it's bad for them with certain compounds in there. It also is high in caffeine sometimes, especially dark chocolate. The caffeine's not good for them, as well as also the level of sugar and how rich chocolate is can upset their tummies. So you can get kind of the perfect storm with chocolate. That's why we typically don't recommend that pets have any of that either. One thing that I did want to mention, because we talked about a lot of things that can make pets sick, and it can be really stressful. The ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center has a phone number that you can Google. So I always just tell owners, start typing in ASPCA Poison Control. It'll pop right up. That phone number, you can actually pay to have a consult before you try to drive to an emergency clinic with someone who you can tell exactly how much of whatever your pet ate of something, that this is medication, this is food, this is other things. And they can help direct you on whether or not that's potentially a toxic amount that would warrant you going to an emergency room. If you can't remember the number or you're panicked in the moment, make sure to just call the veterinarian you normally see and or an emergency hospital that's on any of your pet's paperwork and tell them what happened, because they'll be able to direct you on best next step. I always tell owners not to try to take it into their own hands and do something at home. We've all heard of different things that can make pets throw up and things of that nature. Depending on what they ate, you may not want to make them do that. So we always recommend that they get checked out by a medical professional, and at least that you've spoken to one first.
Can we talk about batteries? That's something that I think maybe a lot of veterinarians have seen in their office, treated in their office, animals getting into things that have batteries, even those coin cell batteries. I know I've done stories about people and the dangers with little babes, toddlers getting into those and how much damage it can do to internal organs. What is the risk? Is it the same exact risk with pets?
It is. It's very similar. So heavy metal poisonings can be common from batteries, depending on the type of battery. Now, we've done a lot to change what's in certain batteries and things like that. But there's always the concern that different brands and different types of batteries have different components, right? And so those can cause heavy metal toxicities if left in there. The other thing that can happen is that batteries are corrosive. We've all seen what happens when a battery gets really old and becomes corrosive. And that can happen inside of a pet as well. So we obviously don't want that to happen. If you ever are suspicious that your pet ate a battery, it's always best to call your veterinarian. They'll be able to walk you through steps. A lot of that is based on timing, right? So you have, whenever you call, you should try to have your best guess on when that was ingested. That's not always possible. Some people come home from work and see that their pet got into some mischief while they were gone. But all of the details you can share can help your medical professional in your state, wherever you're at, really be able to help you through the process and what next steps are and tell you what the risks are of going in versus not.
Doc, I have a question, and I have no idea where this is going to go, but I'm going to ask away.
Here we are.
What are some of the strangest things that you've heard or have seen an animal, let's put dog out there, what's the craziest thing that you've heard a dog eating or consuming, some kind of foreign object? And we're not talking necessarily about food, but foreign objects.
Yeah, so all kinds of things is the answer to your question. They eat all kinds of random things. One of the most interesting, I actually remember when I was a veterinary student, we had a dachshund patient that ate their owner's dachshund-shaped necklace. So there was a great photo on the x-ray when we took it of a little tiny dachshund inside of their dachshund's stomach. So that's probably the most interesting case that I can point a finger to, but all kinds of different things that people don't think about, like those rubber door stops that you use to hold doors open. Dogs love them. If you think about it, they're rubber and they seem like they're a dog toy. The problem with those, though, is that they're obviously a lot more breakable than some of the dog toys that we have out there, and they can ingest them, and just like it can stop a door from moving, it can plug up an intestine. So that's another one that I like to always highlight that people don't think of. The biggest thing is with, pets are family for the vast majority of us, and so making sure that they're supervised is super, super important. And planning and making sure that you have some kind of plan financially for if you end up in one of these situations so that you can treat your pet.
Well, that's a perfect segue because veterinary care can be extraordinarily expensive. It's, often there is pet insurance available, but not everybody has it. It's a decision that, a lot of families decide to, struggle with making. Do I get the insurance for my pet? Do I not? And the costs can add up really quickly. What kinds of costs are we talking about when we're looking at, one of these emergency situations, not just the routine care?
Yeah, so it really depends on what it is, right? Is it a toxin? Is it a foreign body ingestion? How soon after? Lots of factors. So it's hard to give like a specific number. But what I tell owners is that, we should be thinking in the back of our heads that there is a situation in which we may need $3,000 to $5,000 to save our pet if something medically were to go wrong. If that's something that is going to place a financial burden on us in a very immediate kind of fashion, that's where what you just mentioned, pet insurance, is super, super important. And it's something to think about early because pet insurance, the way it works is it doesn't cover pre-existing conditions. You want to get it while your pet is young and healthy. And the biggest thing is I think this factors into a bigger conversation, right? When we get these pets, they're part of our family. We want to make sure we're taking care of them and planning to be able to keep them healthy, just like we do for ourselves. We don't think often about the kind of decisions we make on our own health insurance and things of that nature. And so with pets, we have to be a little bit more proactive. What I recommend is that you, anytime you get a pet, adopt a pet, pick up a new puppy or kitten, that first visit when you're going to get your vaccines with your vet, ask them questions on what's common for that breed, what kind of things should I be prepared for. And then I also recommend using a tool like Pawlicy Advisor, who I work with, to search different pet insurance options and other financial solutions to pick the best one for your family. Pet insurance doesn't fit everybody, but it can be really helpful for certain individuals. And there's lots of customizable parts of that, those plans that can fit your needs and what you're trying to cover.
Hey, let's talk about pet food real quickly. We've talked about things that your dogs and your cats should not be eating. The expensive type of foods that I always, in fact, I just bought one the other day. I'm not going to name the name, but I was instructed by my wife to get this certain brand. It was $20 for, I think, like 8 pounds. It was.
That sounds like a deal.
No, I don't. What are your cats eating? I hate to ask. It was more money than I wanted to spend. But is there something in dog food? If you're trying to maybe cut back, is there something, an ingredient like it must have chicken or it must have corn? If a consumer is looking at the package, what's the best thing to look for when it comes to ingredients?
Yeah, so I love that you brought that up because I think it's a really common question that I get, and it's probably the second question out of any owner's mouth, right? Is what do I feed my pet, right? Like with us, we're taught to read ingredient lists and to really, really like kind of drill down on, is this healthy for me? Is this not? The big thing with pet foods is that they're different. Like that, the labeling one is very different than human food, and also there's something that on the back of a pet food label that's called the AFCO statement. It will be somewhere on every bag of food, and it tells you what that bag of food was formulated for. So when I tell the best thing, right, and there's so many different pet food brands out there. If it says that it was formulated by AFCO for the type of life stage you're talking about, puppies should be eating puppy food, kittens should be eating kitten food, adults should eat adult food, seniors, senior food. And if it says that it's formulated for that, then that's probably a good bet. Now there's lots of different things out there around pets shouldn't eat, pets should eat this. A lot of those things depend on a lot of health factors. Is your pet overweight? Are they on the thin side? All of those things. I really recommend talking to your veterinary team when you're at those visits about if there's anything specific for your pet and their medical conditions that might make one food better than another. But it's really hard to answer that, like, should they all have a certain ingredient? Because the way that we formulate pet food is on a nutrient level. So the amount of carbohydrates, the amount of fat, the amount of different proteins and different building blocks, because we're making a kibble, if you think about it, right? It's not typically like what we eat and have kind of normal food prepared. It's kibble for the most part. There are a lot of fresh options too. The biggest thing with all of these new pet food companies coming out, the World Small Animal Health organizations recommend that if you're curious if a brand is a good fit for you, call the brand and ask them if they had a veterinary nutritionist formulate their diet. It's a very easy question that customer service should be able to answer. And if they can tell you that a veterinary nutritionist formulated the diet, it means that they were trained on what should go in that food, and you're probably safe to feed it to your pet.
If I'm paying $20 for 5 pounds,
better be good.
It better be.
Well, you said it was 8 pounds last time.
Well, yeah, it's probably 5 pounds. It was about the size of a bag of sugar. So that's
That would be 5 pounds.
5 pounds, yeah.
There you
So
go.
next time I need dog food, I'm sending you out for it, okay? And then you could pick up that expense.
Great.
Hey, Doc, funny story for you. My dad, I've heard this story a million times growing up, but he always said, I had a dog named Rex. My dad grew up in Chicago. He had a dog named Rex, and he couldn't afford to give him dog food. He ate off, whatever the scraps were for dinner and breakfast. The dog lived for 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
I've heard that story a million times growing up. So I don't know if that was just, maybe Rex was just a strong dog. I don't know. Maybe he had strong intestines, but not a good idea, right? I mean, you've got to, it's just a good idea to stay with dog food and cat food, right?
It is, because they have different nutritional requirements than us, right? And you also have to remember, too, that most people feed their pet similar things on a regular basis, right? And so what I always tell owners is that if you're going to potentially like home cook for your pet, you can't just give them the same, 2 ingredients every single day forever and hope that it's balanced. You have to make sure that you've worked with, and there's some websites out there. Veterinary nutritionists actually do exist. There's a specialty for nutrition within veterinary medicine, and you can talk to a nutritionist and actually have them make you a home cooked plan if you want. But they do have very different nutritional requirements than us. I mean, perfect example is cats have to eat. They're carnivores. They have to eat meat. You can't. And so that if you're not going to do that, you have to be really careful and work with a veterinarian on exactly how to go about those pieces. So I always tell owners the easiest way is to feed them something that is actually formulated to meet all those requirements, those APCO requirements that we talked about. That's your best bet on making sure that it's a safe food.
Please tell me tuna juice is okay for dogs and cats.
Tuna juice to an extent is fine. You just don't want to make it their only source of protein or only food that they eat.
All right. Well,
we could ask you questions all day long. This has become kind of a free session for both of us and our pets.
He's going to start charging us by the hour.
We appreciate it. This has been really fun.
Hey, Dr. Walther, if people want to find out more about Pawlicy Advisor or you, or they want more information, do you have any websites or social media accounts you want to throw out there?
Yeah, so go ahead and check us out on social media. We're on Instagram. We're also on Facebook, and then our website is pawlicy.com, Pawlicy, policy like a dog's paw. You can check out our website there. There's lots of blog content that fits, I think, a lot of what we talked about, right? So can my pet eat this? What is this type of medical condition? Should I go to the vet for this? We have all of those written on there for people to look at. And then it also talks about where insurance fits in that, and our site can help you decide which pet insurance might be a good fit for your pet.
And remember, cats, no onions, dogs, no chocolate.
And no grapes.
Oh my gosh, grapes. That's really a surprising one. All right, Doc, thanks so much for joining us on the On Your Side podcast. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you around the next time, okay?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.